Good morning. We'll continue with our Aristotle's theory of imitation. So, art imitates nature. Aristotle says that art imitates nature in the Poetics, and we are told that the objects of imitation are men in action. In the former definition, he refers to the process of imitation. By nature, Aristotle does not mean the outward world of created things. He means by nature the creative force, the productive principle of the universe. There is no question of a literal copy of the world of reality. Rather, what art seeks to reproduce is mainly an inward process, a psychical energy working outwards, deeds, incidents, events, situations spring from an inward act of will or some activity of thought or feeling. Man is the highest of the creatures, so he has within him an urge to rise upward, and it is this ceaseless upward striving which a poet imitates, so he renders men as they ought to be. Objects of imitation are men in action. The poet imitates the creative process of nature, but the objects of his imitation are men in action, or the action of men or human life in all its manifestations. Now, what does the action, whatever the action may be, external or it may be internal, it may be the action within the soul caused by all that befalls a man. In this way, he brings human experiences, emotions, and passions, all that happens or is likely to happen to man, within the scope of poetic imitation. As Butcher points out, according to Aristotle's theory, the characteristic moral qualities, the permanent disposition of the mind, the passing and transient emotions and feelings are all action and so proper objects of poetic imitation. Imitation of ideal possibilities. Poetry may imitate men as better or worse than they are in real life, or it may imitate them as they really are. Tragedy and epic represent men on a heroic scale, better than they are, and comedy represents men on a lower type, worse than they are. So, Aristotle does not discuss third possibility. It means that poetry does not aim at photographic realism. In this connection, R.A. Scott James has rightly observed that Aristotle knew nothing of the realistic or fleshly school of fiction, the school of Zola or of Gissing, whose subject might be human beings enduring petty hardships, cruel passions, and undeserved pain. He had never seen an intellectual play like Man and Superman or Justice, though perhaps Euripides come nearest to the type. Now, next is Plato's charge. He says that poetry is twice removed from reality. Aristotle, by his theory of imitation, answers the charge of Plato that poetry is an imitation of shadows, that is, it is twice removed from truth, and that the poet beguiles us with lies. Plato condemned poetry on the ground that in the very nature of things, poet can have no idea of truth. A carpenter who makes a bed makes it according to his idea of the bed, which is the reality. The bed he makes is not the reality, but a copy of the reality. Similarly, God, the maker, created the phenomena world according to the idea in his mind. The phenomenal world, therefore, is not the reality, but a copy of the reality in the mind of the Supreme. Aristotle answers Plato's charge And he says that art imitates not mere shows of things, but the ideal reality, embodied in every object of the world. The process nature is a creative process. Everywhere in nature, there is a ceaseless and upward progress. Everything in nature is constantly growing and moving up. The poet imitates this upward movement of nature. Art reproduces the original not as it is, but as it appears to the senses, that is, it is reproduced imaginatively. Art moves in a world of images and reproduces the external according to the idea or image in his mind. Thus, the poet does not copy the external world but creates according to his idea. Even an ugly object, well imitated, becomes a source of pleasure. And Aristotle tells in the Poetics, objects which in themselves we view with disgust, we delight to contemplate when reproduced with minute fidelity, such as the forms of the most ignoble animals and dead bodies. Poetry is therefore a creative process, giving us the poet's conception of truth, telling us what according to him man ought to be, according to the law of probability and necessity. The real and the ideal from Aristotle's point of view are not opposites. The ideal is the real, shorn of chance and accident, a purified form of reality, and it is this higher reality which is the object of poetic imitation. Idealization and universality is achieved by divesting the real of all that is accidental, transient and particular. Poetry thus imitates the ideal and the universal. It is an idealized representation of character, emotion, action under forms manifest in sense. So, in the end we can conclude that Aristotle successfully and finally refuted the charge of Plato and provided a defense of poetry which has ever since been used by lovers of poetry in justification of their muse. He breathed new life and soul into the concept of poetic imitation and enlarged its scope and showed that it is in reality a creative process. Thank you.